So I want to talk about the election this Thursday, and I want to go through these pamphlets which have come through the door. Now, I wasn't going to vote, and I wasn't going to vote because I've had enough of the political system, the political parties, and also the public. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but you know, I just feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall when I'm talking to the public, really. And I found it all under the lockdown, you know. And first of all, I want to just talk about the public. So during the lockdown, I was banging my head against a brick wall because people wanted to lock down, but they still wanted to see the dentist when they had the dentist. Then they needed a dentist. You know, people seem to want an NHS, but they also want the taxes to decrease as well. And I'm just sick of this hypocritical system which we sort of live in, or this hypocritical stance which people can just seem to hold in society. And it's just sort of really winds me up. And I've had enough of the political systems as well. Basically in this country, historically, and I'm going to have to say historically, because it's looking like the Conservatives may not be in the top two parties after this election, but since the decrease of the Liberal Party, you know, there's only been two electable parties, being Labour and the Tories. And ever since David Cameron came in, he adopted Blair's policies, and he called himself the heir to Blair, and his cabinet called Tony Blair the master. And when this happened, the Conservative Party just became the Labour Party. And ever since this, or even before this, I would probably get the egg timer and I would turn it when Tony Blair got into power. When Tony Blair got into power, the country's just been going worse and worse and worse and worse ever since. And the only places which have seemed to get worse at an even greater degree are the places now which are run by Labour and not the Conservatives. So I'm not going to vote for any of them two parties, and I actually call the Labour Party the Conservative Extra Strength Party, because everything the Conservatives want to do, they just seem to want to double down on. You know, the Conservatives wanted to lock down. They said they wasn't doing enough locking down. You know, the Conservatives increased the minimum wage. They want to increase it even more. The Conservatives want to pump millions and billions into the NHS. They want to pump millions and billions in at an even greater rate. And they always seem to say as well, we hate the Conservatives, we hate the Conservatives. No, you don't. You know, if I hated whiskey and someone gave me a single shot of whiskey, I wouldn't say, look, I hate whiskey, and throw it away, and then go and grab a double shot of whiskey and drink that. You know, it's stupid. You don't hate the Conservatives whatsoever. And whenever they say that, I just say, look, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you hate the Conservatives. So anyway, I've not got the pamphlets for Labour and Conservatives. They probably thought there's no point actually putting one through my letterbox. So I'm just going to go through these three which I've got. One's from an Independent, one's from Reform, and one's from Liberal Democrats. So I start off with the Independent. So this is what it says. Your independent candidate for North Warrington. I am running because I believe our political system is corrupt and incapable of addressing the big problems in our lives. Yeah, I agree. Sort of. You know, politicians have locked us out, and we need to change the way decisions are made. True democracy must be citizen-led. So, the way it should work, or the way democracy does work, it is citizen-led. The citizens vote in the MP. So, I don't know where she's going there. So, this is not political speech. It's actually something we can achieve. We are holding assemblies, community meetups, where anyone can come along to listen and to be listened to. Together, communities decide what issues and policies you want me to stand for. These discussions will form the programme for my campaign. So this leaflet, what strikes me at the bottom, it has that sort of woke sort of cartoon, and I sort of say woke because whenever, let's put it like this, when the comic book industry got taken over, it was always the comic book industry. If it wasn't into it, I'm not into it, but I always appreciated the drawings within comic books and thought that it was a really high level of skill that the artist had to have in order to produce what are in fact works of art. But when it got taken over, it sort of became cartoons like this, and it became where there weren't pictures that you could hang up on your wall, in your man cave. You wouldn't really put Snowflake and Safe Space on your walls, would you? So I'm getting the idea that she's into that ideology, and as she's into that ideology, I'm not sure if I went to one of these meetups and listened to her, or spoke to her, I should say, and says, look, I'm a bit against immigration, I think it's got too high. I don't think she would take me on, to be honest. I'm pretty sure I would be in one of them situations where, she pretends to misunderstand what I'm saying, so she doesn't have to take my points on board. So this does not mean, of course, the first thing, I actually want to go to the front as well. As an independent as well, I would like it a bit more bullet pointy. I don't actually know what you stand for because you're an independent. You don't actually represent a group. So I would like a little bit more. I like it a little bit more plain and simple on the front. I don't think that's really a good way to start. But anyway, I start again at the back. So this does not mean, of course, that I don't have my own core beliefs. I believe in social fairness and respect for all life. I believe it brings shame to our country that so many children live in poverty. I think the unchallenged horrors in Gaza on our watch are deeply worrying. Now, I'm not really concerned about that because I don't really know that much about this situation. I've never really read up on it or actually researched it, so I'm sorry, I'm just not that bothered. So, because of the lack of knowledge that I have on the situation, I am desperate to see real action on the climate emergency, the things 80% of the public agree on. So here, when it comes to the climate emergency, not 80% of the public agree on the climate emergency. I wouldn't even believe that 80% of the public believe in climate change. And so what the climate emergency is, you probably do know, but it's climate change on steroids. So they've ranked it up, and they're saying that we're all going to die in 20, 30 years if we don't do anything. It's not going to happen. In the past 200 years, I think it is, the global temperature's gone up by 1.5 degree. Really big problem there. So and when it comes to these people, when they say, oh, we're in a climate emergency and stuff like that, I say, look, this is what I do. Let's play a game of top trumps. For each 3 prophecies which I give you, which have not come true, either it could be like, I remember reading one years ago which said that the polar ice caps were completely going to melt if we did nothing by 2010. 14 years later they're still there. So that's one that didn't come true. So for each 3 that I give you, you just give me one prophecy which has come true. One doomsday prophecy from these people which have come true. And this is the problem, or the second problem I have with this as well, is that she says that she's fighting for the people against the government. But in my town, in Warrington, it's one of them towns which wanted to create one of them 15-minute cities. We called it Central 6, we didn't call it a 15-minute city, but it was basically the same thing. And the people protested in the numbers, and there was quite a few protests. So you're saying that, you want stuff doing for the about climate change, and you want to go against the government because they're not doing enough, assuming that that's what you're saying. But the people disagree with you, because what the government tried to impose onto the local area, they protest against. So it seems that the government are doing too much. But within these shared values, they're not shared values. You're just claiming that we share them. You're just claiming that you're the majority and you're like the Pied Piper. You're not. Which unite us. I'm here to guide you. What we decide together matters. We will build towards a new chamber of government. I don't know where you get we. I suppose you mean we as the people, but you're only one MP. You're an independent. You really will not have enough power to do that. So that's nonsense. A house of the people. Right, so I'm getting now that it's a bit like, I think it was the People's Assembly which Labour wanted to bring in, which is like a chamber above the actual Houses of Parliament, and basically we want to change the British system, which is flawed, I give them that, but with the EU system, where the people that you're voting have less power than the people who are selected. So where people are selected like a jury, so yeah, it's sounding exactly like that, to hear the evidence and make decisions for politicians. So they're going to make decisions for politicians, people which are not elected. Not elected but selected. So the population at large do not vote them in whatsoever. A small group of people voting in. This is it's absolutely ridiculous, really. So we've just voted against this in 2016. So this House will influence the work of MPs and Lords to deliver the public's true agenda. It's not. It doesn't matter. Hold politicians accountable to what they say. Well, we can do that with a vote anyway. And there's quite a lot of that going on anyway, where people are just cancelled because they've actually said something, and and they're actually not cancelled by the public, by the way of voting. They're actually cancelled, by the media, an unelected body. So what you're saying is we'll go have another unelected body, which are going to have that power to cancel people. So dismantle money's power over politics. So this is where the socialist sort of system mass comes off, because the socialists sort of think that the people with money are the greatest power, have the greatest power, where the capitalists sort of think that the politicians have the greatest power, which is sort of my core belief, because people with money, what can they do to really upset my life? They can either give me a job or not give me a job. That's all that they can do. When it comes to a politician, they can really, influence my life. Like, for example, they can bring in a mass amount of immigrants into the country. That really affects my life, either for the positive, you might believe it's for the positive, or for the worse, but it really impacts my life a lot more than what having a job or not having a job does. So that's my way of thinking. I sort of believe in the Hayekian sort of belief structure when it comes to that. So representing people from all walks of life, well, that already happens, you know. There's not anyone from any walk of life or any sexual orientation or any ethnic group or any racial group which is not allowed to vote. You know, they're all represented. So yeah, when it comes to that, nearly 15 minutes on that, total nonsense. So Liberal Democrats. Now I've spoken to not this guy, but the one from South Warrington, and he was saying to me that we didn't vote to get out of a single market. And I went, yes we did. That's exactly what we voted for. You know, and he said it wasn't clear. And when, you know, David Cameron at the time got on camera, and he said, you know, a vote to leave is a vote to leave the single market. You know, it couldn't have been more clear. And even if it wasn't clear, after the referendum, it became very clear that that's what people wanted. And they still voted for the Brexit Party and got a massive majority in the European election. And they still voted for Boris and got a massive election in that. And Boris's policy of what he got voted in for, he didn't actually do it, but he got voted in for, was get Brexit done. And within that was leaving the single market. So I'm already wound up with these at the moment. Now, what I do have to say about this is it's actually, you know, done on quite hard cards. So presentation wise, you know, it's probably an A+, but let's see what it says. So better access to a GP and dental services. Everyone should be able to rely on quick access to high quality local health services when they need them. Right, so the problem with this is that, you know, I know I'm British, and as a British person, I'm supposed to be like, oh, the NHS, and just see it like a religion. But I'm sorry, I'm just not. I recognise that it has problems, and one of the problems is that it's built on a price ceiling, an artificial price set by the government, which a price of a product mustn't go above, and that price is set at zero when it comes to the NHS. Now, when it comes to price ceilings, when you install a price ceiling onto the economic market, it causes more to be demanded and less to be supplied. And as more is demanded and less is supplied, you're always going to have massive waiting lists. You're going to have to wait. There's nothing you can do with that. That's the laws of economics. So when you say access to high quality, that's another thing as well, what price ceilings do. They decrease the quality. So access to high quality, can't do. Local health services, when they need them, well, you won't be able to achieve that because you're going to have to make a waiting list. You know, you're going to be on a waiting list because you can't break the unbreakable laws of economics. So you're proposing the impossible. You know, I'm sorry, I know it's like a cult, the NHS, but I do see problems with it. I'm having problems with it at the moment. So tackling the cost of living crisis. Now, I see it more of a cost of lockdown crisis, and that's when it really started to hit. I don't believe that we needed to lock down. I really don't. And when you look at other parts of the world which didn't lock down, they didn't really seem to have, you know, that big of a problem. You know, there wasn't people dropping on the streets like they said there was. And I could go into another video on another day where I actually go into the laws of economics and actually prove that, you know, lockdowns just will not work or did not work. So and I'm more than happy to do that. The Conservatives have wrecked the economy, leaving people struggling to make ends meet. Now, I don't remember you or Labour actually saying that we shouldn't lock down and being against the lockdown. You know, it really does wind me up, the lockdown, because you know, I was one of them really extremely rare, unlucky people that nearly died of COVID. But on the other hand, my mother nearly died of the vaccine. She took the vaccine, her head completely swelled up, you know, extremely swelled up. There was places where it's like half an inch thicker. And the problem with that is that if you've got swelling on the outside of your face, you've got swelling on the inside. And if you do take a vaccine and you do get swelling, go straight to the hospital, because if it's swelling on the outside, there could be swelling on the inside and in your throat, in your air pipes, and it could stop you from breathing, so go straight there. And so I'm sort of really wound up with the situation, because she only took it to get a job, and she was that scared about losing a job that even though she had this nasty reaction to the vaccine, because she was that scared, she took two further ones. So I'm really not happy with what the country's done, and I really think it should be a big issue in this election what the country did during the lockdown, where they just basically scared people, and they've actually admitted, yeah, we use psychological warfare on people. I know, and it seems to be that the psychological warfare really affected my mother, where she actually risked her life. So yeah, I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with the Conservatives because they imposed it. I'm not happy with Labour because they were saying, oh, you need to lock down even more. And the same with the Liberal Democrats. They were the same. They was like, oh, you're not locking down enough. Look at all the people that are dying. You're not locking down enough. And it's like, you know, you need to prove that the lockdowns would stop the people from dying. And I can actually prove that it didn't. So protect our local environment. So Warrington Liberal Democrats will work for urgent action to restore the UK's natural environment, including real measures to end the sewage dumping scandal, cut carbon emissions, right, and plant 6 million trees each year. So where are these 6 million trees going to go? Are you going to take farmers' lands? Because I'm not happy in that whatsoever. It's one of the things that I'm really miffed off about the Conservatives, that they keep buying farmers' land and then rewilding it. So we've actually got no land to actually grow stuff on while we're having a war. Or we're not actually having a war, but technically we are, with Russia in Ukraine, and sort of you know, it sort of takes our breadbasket, our grain factory, sort of out of commission at the moment. And as our grain factory is out of commission, we seem to be wanting to rip up the farmlands and rewild it. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. So yeah, I think that's a stupid policy as well. So I've got this from Reform, and it doesn't really put... Oh, this is sort of what I want, actually. No, it's actually quite good from the Reform and from the independent candidate. I just want bullet points. So, stop the boats, make money pay, or make work pay, zero waiting lists. So, yeah, again, that can't be done. I would have freeze immigration. So, the immigration election, which is, yeah, probably... I think every single election's been the immigration election for the past 15 years, but they just don't seem to be listening to the people, and they just seem to be playing the same trick that the independent person was saying, where they're just saying that the opposite viewpoint is what the public want, even though it's not. So anyway, immigration needs reform. Freeze non-essential immigration. Smart immigration will target those with essential skills that we need such as doctors. Well, this is what the Conservatives have been saying for a while, and we've not really been getting that. So, you know, it's something that's won in votes. So, it is a decent policy. It has got ridiculous at the moment. You know, I sometimes walk around and you see people and they can't even speak English, and you think, what value are you bringing to this country? And why have you come? How have you actually got in? So stop the boats and leave the ECHR. Only reform will turn the boats back to France and leave the undemocratic ECHR. And I'm not sure whether reform will do it. No, they might not be capable of doing it, but it's damn sure that the Conservatives won't do it, because they've been in power with a majority for quite a while now and not done anything. And it's pretty sure that Labour are not going to do it, because Angela Rayner, quite recently, you know, I can't do her thick accent, but she sounds as thick as that. And she said that every single constituency needs to take in their fair share of immigrants. Now, if you're going to stop the boats, why would the constituencies need to take in further immigrants? You know, they just wouldn't. So you're not going to stop the boats. So then again, so yeah, I do only see Reform as the only party which could possibly do that. You know, because all the other parties are just going to let it happen, and it's an absolute certainty. So stop the illegal working scandal. We will ensure rules around illegal working are robustly enforced and impose penalties on companies and directors that breach these rules. So yeah, if you're not legally allowed to work, you shouldn't be working. It's completely unfair on a legitimate business which are employing people, which are which can work and forking out a lot more money. If another business or another rival company is employing illegal work, you know, it's just not right. It's not fair. And there's a pub around ours, and I was in there once, and this guy came in, and he was of an immigrant persuasion, and he was saying that he wanted to get rid, or he was asking the landlord of his pub to get rid of his staff, and he was asking his landlord to get rid of his staff and take on his staff, and that his staff are going to work for a lot cheaper. But the only problem was that his staff were on minimum wage, and he said, yeah, they still work cheaper. And you know, it's just not on, because if that landlord said yes, all them people, there was about 15 people working in this pub, would all lose their jobs. So anyway, that's the pamphlets. I'm going to vote reform. You could probably tell that. And we're saying that, sign our